Welcome to AFL Access's 2019 season previews, where Ryan and I break out the crystal balls to try and divine what the future holds for all 18 teams. I'm Joel, and today I'll be looking at the Fremantle Dockers. So if anyone's wondering why I did the season review for last year and am doing the season preview for the Dockers, is because Ryan and I, not to agree, are teams rivals for obvious reasons. If it isn't, the power video would most likely just be me cackling like a madman at this clip.
They led by 28 points at one stage, but the perfect storm has erupted. Injuries came, and then the West Coast Eagles and Jeremy
Oh, that gets me every time. Anyway, back to the subject at hand with Fremantle and their middlingly futile 2018 season. Well, that's not entirely fair, as Nat Fyfe and a fair number of other important players were injured throughout the season, leaving a lot of their youngsters exposed. An 8-14 campaign after another 8-14 campaign is not super flash, but there is definitely some places that have potential to blossom into strength for the Dockers. So, with that being said, Freo had a pretty busy off-season looking to bolster and complement many of the emerging talents from the 2017 draft. A major weak point for the Dockers, in my opinion, was their forward line, with guys like Brandon Matera, Cam McCarthy and Shane Curzon looking pretty poor and not meeting expectations that they were hyped to be when they came back to Freo. You know what helps with massive underachieving? Getting two highly touted key position forwards to join your ranks, and even better, they're local boys. Jesse Hogan and Rory Lobb were traded back to the West into the hands of the Dockers, giving away pick 6 and 11 to the original club. Another Western Australian boy who wanted to head home was Travis Collier, who was flipped for a 4th round pick in the 2019 draft. Another one? Huh. Well, they also got Reece Conker off of free agency for nothing, so that's pretty good. On draft night with their first pick at number 17, they selected Sam Sturt from the Dandenong Stingrays. Next, they picked up Luke Valente with pick 32, a former South Australian state team captain. And then with pick 57, they picked up Lachlan Schultz and Brett Booley at pick 59. At the rookie draft, they re-rookied, and I'm sorry if I butcher this, Ryan Nyhurst? That'll do. And Ethan Hughes alongside rookieing Toby Watson. So, to make room, there was a lot of changes to the list. So, I'll start with retirees. Michael Johnson, Lee Spur, Daniel Pearce, and Michael Aptness all decided to call time on their careers, which will mean a huge loss in game experience, but allows for a lot more younger players to take up the mantle of Dockers stars. The only player that was traded away was a pretty significant one, with Lachie Neale, probably the number 2 midfielder behind Fyfe, was traded to the Lions for a couple of picks. So yeah, have fun filling that craterous void in your lineup, Ross. For the delistings, I'm just going to do what I did for the Blues. Up on the screen you go. What goals will the Fremantle Dockers strive for in the 2019 season? I think really hinges on one all-important question. Is Nat Fyfe going to be healthy for a majority of the year? If the answer is no, then get the young in some game times, have acquisition gel, and when Fyfe is healthy, start to build some chemistry around him with the new players. If yes, push for a finals run, or at the very least, be competitive for a majority of the matches they play. Overly simplistic? Yes. But realistically possible? I'd say yeah. We don't want another 2016 season where they lost their first 10 games straight and looked like a dog's breakfast for a majority of the season, even with Fyfe. The defense for the Dockers was a bit bipolar throughout the 2018 season, putting in some particularly strong defensive efforts across the season, only to be decimated and the earth salted by teams like the Cats. But to be fair, that was down in Geelong. Most people get absolutely curb-stomped in Geelong. Now, with some of the aging stalwarts in Michael Johnson and Lee Spur retiring, there are some spots that open up for the Dockers' youthful defenders. Griffin Lowe, the 8th pick from the 2016 draft, had a season-long foot injury which quashed a lot of game time he could have received alongside the more experienced hands in the defense. Well, it looks like he's going in the deep end this season, although I don't think that is too bad since he will need to start rebuilding the defense from the inside out. Ex-Giant Nathan Wilson will be right alongside Lode trying to reconstruct and rebuild in the wake of losing many key defenders. Now coming into his second year with Freo, I think he will stand up to make an excellent defensive playmaker heading into the future. Joel Hamling, who returned home from the Dogs after their historic grand final win, has been a bit meh since coming to Freo, so he should try and pick up his game and keep the defense solid. Alex Pearce, one of the more promising defensive prospects for the Dockers, had a fantastic 2018 campaign, playing 21 games, the most in one season of his career, so he'll be looking to continue his form into the 2019 season. Being a 200cm key defender will be a pretty good asset to shut down a lot of the tall key forwards on opposing teams, but he may still have a bit of a learning. A good foundational piece for the Dockers will be Stephen Hill, as he is probably the most experienced defender on the list currently. His classy ball movement and defensive ability will hopefully add a bit more counter-attacking ability to Fremantle, as many teams look to counter off of the back half. Connor Blakely will most likely be more of a midfielder coming off the half-back line as he did in the games he played last year. He will hopefully get at least 20 plus games after only playing 13 in the 2018 season. Nat Fyfe and friends will be an interesting watch throughout the season, as the youngsters will need to step up, the older blokes need to maintain form, and Fyfe needs to be injury-free. Fyfe has been carrying Fremantle for the past couple of years pretty much single-handedly, but at least this year looks to have a bit more help this time. Really, there isn't much else to say about Fyfe outside of this. That being said, Adam Chera and Andrew Brayshaw are two excellent upcoming Dockers, so it isn't a complete disaster if Fyfe is out of the team for a fair bit. Brayshaw in particular will be looking to get back into the swing of things after having his jaw broken in the Western Derby last year, a truly horrific moment for any young player. David Mundy should now step into a role of a mentor on the ground for two young stallions to develop behind. He should lead by example and still produce in spades for the Dockers. Mundy also has a knack for keeping calm in the clutch moments, so that should be a good calming influence for the younger players if they're ever put into that spot. Brad Hill, alongside his brother, will hopefully be an even bigger difference maker in his second season at the Dockers. Hill could also creep up the ground into the forward line to provide more support, but will definitely have to spend some time in the midfield as well as give Brayshaw and Chera the support they need. Aaron Sandilands appears to, well, at least to me, be winding down his career as he was pretty consistently injured throughout the 2018 season, so a replacement may be needed. Scott Jones played a couple games last year and performed pretty well, especially in the absence of Sandy, but new acquisition Rory Lobb, as well as being a great tall forward option, can also play as a main ruck option if Sandilands is out for parts of the season. Fremantle's forward lineup should be supplemented by the new draftees, along with Hogan and Lobb entering the side, but they will need other players to step up or be left in the dust. The homeward-bound Jesse Hogan will be a great player to rally around for the Dockers, as he is shown to be an excellent leading forward with tremendous marking ability. Brennan Cox is also developing into a good tall forward, who can provide support for Hogan while he goes up against more of the number one defenders and he can take the lesser known defenders. Michael Walters has been pretty much one of the more consistent small forwards for the Dockers in the past couple seasons and was a top goal scorer for them last year. So coming into this season, he'll probably be looked at to stand up as the main small forward option. Luke Valente should, in my opinion, start round one as a half forward option to get some fresh blood into the Dockers lineups. With many forwards underperforming last year, I think putting an emerging new bloke may be a spark for the forward line needs. Matt Taberner looked to emerge as a pretty decent forward option last year, although injuries did put a bit of a dampener on those ambitions. But he should hopefully produce more this season. I think Lobb will take the sixth spot in the forward line, as well as being the occasional tap ruckman. His time at the Giant has shown that he has excellent marking ability and a knack for kicking goals, which will be valuable for the Dockers going forward. I think the round one team should look something like this. Some matches I'd keep my eye on for Fremantle will definitely be the Western Derby, especially after the pretty fiery clash last season. The first round match up against the Rouge should also be an interesting contest, especially to open up the season. I'm not sure what other matches will be good, but I'm sure later in the season most people will be able to decipher which ones will be pretty good. At the end of the 2019 season, where the Dockers will finish, like I said, with the goals is depending on whether or not Fife is healthy for most of the year. If he is healthy, I think they're going to sneak into the top 8 by the skin of their teeth. And if he isn't, I'm going to say back to middling futility at about, I would say 13th. I think this is a fair assessment of the Dockers. If not, let me know in the comments below. If you like the video, smash that big old thumbs up button and subscribe to stay notified. Tomorrow, I'll be doing the Geelong Cat. Yay. And then you'll finally hear Ryan again as he discusses the Gold Coast Suns. This has been your AFL Access.